Bound by Midnight by RocJane. Chapter 1. A Dangerous Encounter. The ballroom shimmered with golden light, crystal chandeliers catching every movement and scattering it into glitter across velvet gowns and polished shoes. Selena Hart kept her champagne flute close to her lips, though she hadn't taken more than 2 sips all evening. She wasn't here to indulge. She was here to observe. Networking, she reminded herself, not flirting. Never flirting. Her black silk dress was elegant but understated, designed to blend rather than dazzle. After her messy breakup, she'd promised herself not to draw unnecessary attention. Yet, judging by the lingering glances, she had failed. Selena had the kind of quiet beauty that was harder to ignore the more she tried to hide it. Selena Hart? A familiar colleague brushed past her, greeting her briefly before being swallowed by the crowd. She sighed, adjusting the strap of her dress, and drifted toward the edges of the gala. She had always been better with sketches and blueprints than with small talk. And then she felt it. A presence, strong, commanding, magnetic in a way that prickled the skin on her arms. Selena turned, and her gaze landed on a man across the room. Tall, dark hair brushed neatly back, framing sharp cheekbones and eyes as black as midnight. He was surrounded by people, laughing, smiling, seeking his approval. Yet he looked bored, detached, until his eyes found hers. The world seemed to still. Selena's breath hitched, though she quickly forced herself to look away. She didn't do this anymore. She didn't let her body betray her with a rush of heat and longing for a stranger. But curiosity tugged at her, and when she glanced back, he was already moving toward her. "Forgive me," the man said, his voice a low, rich baritone that felt like velvet over stone. "But I don't think we've met." Selena lifted a brow, keeping her composure. "And you usually make it your business to meet everyone in the room?" His lips curved into a faint, amused smile. "Only the ones who pretend they don't want to be noticed." She blinked, caught between irritation and intrigue. Arrogant, she thought, too self-assured. But God, he wore confidence like a tailored suit, and it worked. "Selena Hart," she said at last, extending her hand with a polite firmness. He took it, his grip warm, steady, lingering just a second too long. Adrian Blackwood. The name made her pause. She'd heard it whispered in professional circles. The hotel magnate, the man who bought entire coastlines and turned them into empires of glass and luxury. But she masked her recognition, pulling her hand back smoothly. "Well, Mr. Blackwood, it was nice meeting you. If you'll excuse me." "Running away already?" he murmured, leaning just close enough that only she could hear. "Most people try very hard to keep me talking." She tilted her chin, her voice cool. "I'm not most people." For a moment, the air between them tightened, heavy with something unspoken. His eyes swept her face, studying her as though she were a puzzle he intended to solve. Selena's pulse betrayed her, quickening, but she forced herself to step back. "Good night, Mr. Blackwood." She left him standing in the crowd, but long after she slipped outside into the cool coastal air, Selena could still feel the heat of his gaze burning against her skin. And though she didn't know it yet, she had just walked straight into the fire. Chapter 2. Business, not pleasure. The next morning, Selena sat at the head of a sleek glass conference table, her laptop open, sketches spread around her like a fortress. The meeting room overlooked the harbor, morning sunlight cutting across the water in dazzling streaks. She tapped her pen against her notebook, mentally preparing herself for her first official client meeting in the city. Architecture was her sanctuary. Angles, light, form, and structure. Unlike people, buildings didn't lie. They stood strong or crumbled, depending on the foundation. That was something she understood, something she could control. "Mr. Blackwood will be joining us shortly," the assistant said, as she poured water into crystal glasses. Selena barely nodded. She didn't care who this Blackwood was. Her work came first. She needed this contract, needed to establish herself in this new city, away from the ghost of her ex-fiancé. The door opened. A shift in the air told her before she even looked up who had arrived. Adrian Blackwood. Selena's pen stilled. He was the last person she expected to see again so soon, her enigmatic stranger from the gala. Except now, there was no champagne haze, no ball gowns or chandeliers. Here he was sharper, more dangerous in his tailored charcoal suit, exuding power as though he owned not just the building, but the very air she breathed. "Miss Hart," Adrian greeted, his voice calm yet carrying an edge of recognition. His eyes lingered on hers, a flicker of amusement beneath their midnight depths. Her heart gave one treacherous thump. She sat straighter, cool and professional. "Mr. Blackwood," she returned evenly. "Shall we begin?" He took the seat directly opposite her, leaning back with deliberate ease. "Please, enlighten me." Selena clicked her laptop and began her presentation, projecting sleek visuals of the proposed resort. The design drew on natural elements, the curve of the shoreline, the sweep of glass that invited the ocean inside. Her voice steadied as she spoke, passion flowing through her words, her confidence returning in the realm where she reigned supreme. When she finished, silence stretched. Adrian steepled his fingers, studying the designs, then her. "It's bold," he said at last, "but you've underestimated the grandeur I require. This isn't just a resort, it's a statement, a symbol." Selena's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, grandeur for the sake of grandeur compromises functionality. Guests should feel seduced by comfort, not overwhelmed by spectacle." A spark lit in his gaze. "You challenge me." "I challenge bad ideas," she countered, before she could stop herself. For a beat, neither of them moved. The air between them was charged, like flint striking steel. Adrian's mouth curved into something between a smirk and a smile, though his eyes remained intent. "Very well, Miss Hart. Impress me. Show me you can build a resort worthy of my name, and I'll give you my full trust." Selena exhaled slowly, gathering her papers. "I don't need your trust, Mr. Blackwood. Just your approval of the design." But as their gazes locked again, she knew it wasn't just about blueprints anymore. This was a battle, one she wasn't sure she could afford to win or lose. And judging by the dangerous gleam in Adrian's eyes, he wasn't planning to make it easy. Chapter 3. Close Quarters. The sun dipped low over the coast as Selena stepped off the ferry, her sketchbook tucked beneath her arm. The salty air clung to her skin, the sound of waves crashing against the shore almost loud enough to drown out her thoughts. Almost. Adrian Blackwood's private resort in progress loomed ahead. Skeletal steel frames and rising glass. Workers moving with precision. It was raw, unfinished, but Selena saw the potential immediately. Her designs were beginning to take shape, transforming sketches into reality. "This way, Ms. Hart," the site manager said, guiding her toward a row of temporary villas reserved for project staff. But when she reached her assigned villa, she found Adrian waiting at the door, sleeves rolled up, his tie gone, looking far less untouchable than he had in the boardroom. He leaned casually against the doorway, though there was nothing casual in the way his eyes locked onto her. "I thought you'd appreciate working on site," he said, as if reading her surprise. Convenience. Easier collaboration. Selena arched a brow. Convenience or control? His lips twitched. Why not both? She brushed past him, stepping into the villa. It was luxurious for a temporary arrangement. Polished wood floors, wide glass windows overlooking the sea, and a faint scent of sandalwood that felt unnervingly intimate. Too intimate. "I prefer my own space," she said, setting her sketchbook down with deliberate care. "You'll have it," Adrian replied smoothly. "But the closer we work, the better the results. Don't you agree?" She turned to face him, every nerve in her body alert. He was too close, his presence filling the room, making the air thicker somehow. For a moment, she wanted to snap at him, to push him away. But her voice betrayed her, softer than she intended. Results are all that matter. The days that followed blurred into a rhythm of work and unspoken tension. Selena spent hours walking the construction site, correcting blueprints, consulting with contractors, and always, Adrian was there, watching, questioning, testing. At night, when exhaustion should have claimed her, she found herself restless. Sketching by the villa's soft lamplight, she'd catch herself thinking about the way his hand brushed hers when they shared documents, or the way his gaze lingered a second too long when she explained her vision. One evening, as they pored over lighting schematics spread across the long dining table, Selena leaned forward to point out a detail. Her shoulder brushed his arm, just lightly, but the contact sent a jolt straight through her. She froze, daring a glance up. Adrian's eyes were already on her, dark, heated, unreadable. "Your attention to detail is remarkable," he said, voice low enough to make her skin tighten. Selena swallowed hard, pulling her hand back to the safety of her side. "It's my job." "Is that what you tell yourself?" She glared, needing the sharpness to shield her. "What I tell myself is none of your concern." But later, when she lay awake in her too soft bed, staring at the ceiling, Selena couldn't deny it anymore. Proximity was dangerous. Adrian Blackwood wasn't just her client. He was temptation, circling her defenses with the patience of a predator. And she was starting to wonder how long before she slipped. Chapter 4. The first crack. The storm came without warning. One moment, the sky was streaked with orange and gold as the sun dipped below the horizon. The next, dark clouds rolled over the ocean like a wall of shadow, swallowing the light. Workers scrambled to secure scaffolding, equipment, anything that could be lost to the wind. Selena watched from the villa's balcony, hair whipping around her face, heart pounding as thunder cracked across the water. "Inside, now!" Adrian's voice cut through the chaos. Before she could argue, his hand was at her elbow, firm, steady, pulling her back into the villa. The door slammed shut against the rising howl of the storm, leaving only the flicker of candlelight after the power went out. Selena's breath came fast, too fast. She wasn't afraid of storms, not exactly. She was afraid of being trapped, with him in this moment, with nowhere to run. "You're shaking," Adrian murmured, his voice low in the dim light. She drew herself up. "It's just a storm." "I'm fine," but she wasn't. The air between them was heavier than the storm outside, thick with the silence of everything they hadn't said. Adrian's gaze lingered on her face, his expression softer than she had ever seen it. "You don't let anyone close, do you?" he asked quietly. Her throat tightened. "That's none of your business." But he didn't back away. Instead, he sat down on the edge of the sofa, gesturing for her to join him. Against her better judgment, she did, sinking into the cushions while lightning split the sky beyond the glass. My last relationship ended with betrayal, Selena said finally, surprising herself with the words. She hadn't meant to confess, but the storm stripped away her walls. I gave everything, and he threw it away. I swore I'd never let passion blind me again. Adrian was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, voice husky. I loved once, years ago. She died in an accident. I should have protected her. I didn't. Since then, I don't let anyone close either. The raw honesty in his tone disarmed her. She turned to him, her heart tugging against the iron bars she'd built around it. For the first time, she saw not the powerful magnate, but a man haunted by ghosts. Adrian, she whispered, her voice trembling. Lightning flashed, illuminating the sharp planes of his face. His hand brushed hers, hesitant, searching. The touch sent fire skittering across her skin, unraveling all her carefully held defenses. Selena should have pulled back. She didn't. Instead, she leaned into the warmth of his touch, into the storm raging inside her as much as outside. And when his lips finally claimed hers, the world seemed to shatter. The kiss was fierce, desperate, like two people standing at the edge of a cliff and leaping together. Her fingers curled into his shirt, dragging him closer, while his hand slid to the small of her back, anchoring her to him. When they broke apart, breathless, Selena's chest heaved. "This is a mistake," she whispered, though every fiber of her body screamed otherwise. Adrian's forehead rested against hers, his voice a vow. "Then let's make the mistake together." Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, the first crack in their walls had already split wide open. Chapter 5. Fire and Surrender. The storm passed, but the fire it left behind burned hotter than ever. Selena woke in the middle of the night. The villa hushed, except for the steady crash of waves beyond the glass. Her heart still raced. Her lips still tingled from that kiss, raw, reckless, unforgettable. She pressed a hand to her chest, willing herself to calm down. This was wrong. She was supposed to be in control. A soft knock broke the silence. Before she could respond, the door opened. Adrian stood there, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, dark eyes shadowed with something dangerous, something that mirrored the storm raging inside her. "Couldn't sleep," he said simply. Selena swallowed hard. "You shouldn't be here. Tell me to leave, and I will." His voice was low, rough, almost pleading. "But if you don't?" Her breath caught. Every rational part of her screamed to stop this, to keep the walls between them intact. But her body betrayed her. Trembling with want, she didn't tell him to leave. Adrian closed the door softly behind him and crossed the room in slow, deliberate steps. When he reached her, he lifted a hand, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle, but the intensity in his gaze stole her breath. "Selena," he murmured, her name a caress. She couldn't resist anymore. Her fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him down to her. Their lips met again, this time with no hesitation, no restraint. The kiss was fire, consuming, the kind that burned away every last ounce of fear. Adrian's hands roamed her body, tracing her curves as though memorizing her. She gasped against his mouth, heat flooding her veins. He tasted like danger and salvation, like everything she had sworn never to want again. And yet, she craved more. When he lifted her effortlessly into his arms, she clung to him, letting him carry her to the bed. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only the press of his body against hers, the intoxicating rhythm of his touch. Clothes fell away in a blur, leaving nothing between them but bare skin and the raw honesty of need. Selena's breath came in ragged gasps as Adrian's lips trailed down her neck, her collarbone lower, every kiss unraveling her a little more. "Tell me to stop," he whispered against her skin, though his hands trembled as if he prayed she wouldn't. Her reply came in a broken moan, her fingers tangling in his hair. "Don't you dare." That was all the permission he needed. The night turned molten, a heady rush of passion and surrender. Every barrier she had built, every wall he had guarded, came crashing down with each frantic touch and fevered kiss. She gave herself to him completely, and he gave her the same. A raw, unshielded vulnerability neither of them had dared show anyone in years. When it was over, they lay tangled in sheets damp with heat, their bodies slick with sweat, their hearts pounding in unison. Adrian's arm rested protectively around her, anchoring her against him. Selena closed her eyes, her body trembling from both exhaustion and the weight of what they had just done. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to fall. But as Adrian pressed a soft kiss to her temple, she knew the truth she couldn't escape. She already had. Chapter 6. The Past Returns. The days after the storm blurred into something Selena didn't dare name. Nights of heat and whispered confessions melted into mornings, where Adrian's hand lingered on her back just a second too long before they parted for the day's work. She told herself it was temporary, just passion, just need. But deep inside, she knew it was already more, and that terrified her. On a crisp afternoon, Selena walked along the resort grounds, inspecting progress. Workers hammered, drills echoed, the sea glimmered in the distance. She was reviewing the curvature of the glass lobby when a voice froze her mid-step. "Selena?" Her stomach dropped. Slowly, she turned. It was him, Daniel, her ex-fiancé. The man who had shattered her trust, left her bleeding inside. He looked the same, perfectly styled hair, a smug smile that hadn't changed since the day she'd caught him with someone else. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Daniel smirked. "Business. I have a stake in one of Blackwood's competitors. Word spreads quickly in these circles. And when I heard you were working with Adrian..." He let the words hang, oozing with implication. Selena's spine stiffened. "Leave." But he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I'm warning you, Sel. Adrian Blackwood isn't who you think he is. He ruins women, uses them, discards them. That tragic story about the girl he lost? Convenient. Some say he caused it." Her breath hitched. "You're lying." Daniel shrugged, smug as ever. "Believe what you want. But when he breaks you, and he will, don't say I didn't warn you." With that, he walked off, leaving the taste of poison in the air. Selena stood rooted, her pulse racing, her mind a storm. She told herself Daniel was manipulating her, twisting the truth like he always had. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it burrowed deep. That evening, as she and Adrian reviewed final adjustments to the infinity pool design, she found herself studying him differently. His intensity, the shadows in his eyes, were they passion or secrets? "Something on your mind?" Adrian asked, noticing her distraction. "No," she lied quickly, flipping through her sketches. But her tone betrayed her. Adrian's gaze sharpened. "Selena." She couldn't bring herself to look at him. "I just heard things today." His expression darkened. "From who?" She hesitated. "Daniel." Adrian's jaw tightened, his fists clenching against the table. "That snake. Whatever lies he fed you, don't believe them." "Then tell me the truth," she whispered, her voice breaking. What really happened to her? To the woman you loved? For a moment, Adrian's mask slipped, and she saw raw pain flicker across his face. But then, just as quickly, the shutters slammed back into place. "Not now," he said coldly, standing. "Drop it." Selena's chest ached. She wanted to reach for him, to demand answers, but the wall between them had returned, stronger than ever. And as she lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, Daniel's poisonous words echoed in her mind. Maybe she was falling for a man destined to break her. Chapter 7. Breaking Point. The tension grew unbearable. Selena buried herself in work, poring over blueprints late into the night, walking the site until exhaustion threatened to consume her. But no matter how much she tried, she couldn't drown out the storm inside her, or the distance that had crept between her and Adrian. He avoided her gaze now, his once steady presence turning cold, mechanical. The man who had kissed her like she was the only woman in the world now carried himself like a fortress of stone. Finally, after days of silence, she cornered him in his office, overlooking the crashing sea. "We need to talk," Selena said, her voice firm. Adrian didn't look up from the papers spread across his desk. "About the resort?" "No, about us." That made him freeze. Slowly, he raised his eyes, those midnight depths unreadable. "There is no us. This is business." The words cut like knives. "Business?" she repeated, disbelief tightening her throat. "Is that what you call what happened between us?" "What you made me feel." His jaw flexed, but his tone stayed cold. "You knew what this was." Selena's chest burned. She stepped closer, her hands trembling. "I knew nothing, Adrian. Because you don't let me in. You hide behind your walls and your secrets, and I'm supposed to just accept that? Pretend I don't see the pain you carry?" For a flicker of a second, his mask cracked. She saw it, the guilt, the grief. But then it vanished, replaced by steel. "You don't understand," he said, voice rough. "Then make me understand," she cried, tears threatening to spill. "I've given you pieces of me I swore I'd never give again. And all you've done is pull away." He slammed his hand down on the desk, the sound making her flinch. "Because if I let you in, if I let myself feel this, it will destroy us both." Her breath hitched, the final thread inside her snapping. "Then maybe I should leave. The project. You. All of it." The silence after her words was deafening. Adrian's face hardened, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the desk. He didn't stop her. The rejection stung worse than she could bear. Selena turned on her heel, her vision blurred with unshed tears as she stormed out of the office. The sea wind hit her like a slap, but it wasn't enough to numb the ache tearing through her chest. Back in her villa, she packed a bag with shaking hands. Every blueprint, every sketch, every night of passion. They all felt like lies now. She wanted to hate him, but hate was easier than the truth. That she had fallen, deeply and irrevocably, for a man too broken to love her back. When she lay in bed that night, suitcase by the door, she whispered into the darkness, her heart breaking in silence. "Goodbye, Adrian." But even as the words left her lips, she knew she wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. Because love, no matter how dangerous, wasn't so easily abandoned. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. The next morning dawned heavy and gray, clouds rolling across the horizon like a warning. Selena walked the site one last time, telling herself she was only there to say goodbye to her work. To him. She'd hand over her final notes and leave, taking her heart with her before Adrian could shatter it completely. But fate had other plans. She was halfway across the scaffolding of the main lobby when the metal beneath her foot shifted. Selena gasped as the board wobbled, the sound of cracking bolts splitting the air. In an instant, she lost her balance, the world tilting beneath her. Selena! Adrian's voice tore through the chaos. She barely had time to register before strong arms caught her, pulling her against a solid chest. The scaffolding groaned, collapsing behind them as he dragged her to safety. They landed hard on the ground, dust clouding the air. Adrian's hands gripped her shoulders, his face pale, his eyes wild with terror. "Are you hurt?" His voice broke, raw. She shook her head, her chest heaving. "I'm fine." But he wasn't. His entire body trembled, his breath ragged, his eyes locked on her, as if she'd just been ripped from the jaws of death. "I thought I lost you," he whispered hoarsely. Selena blinked. "Adrian!" He surged to his feet, pacing like a caged animal. "I can't. God, I can't do this again. I can't watch someone He broke off, raking a hand through his hair, anguish carved into his features. "Someone you what?" Selena asked softly, standing. His eyes met hers, haunted and burning. "Love. Someone I love." The words shattered something inside her. "Then tell me the truth." "Tell me what you've been hiding." Adrian's shoulders sagged, his walls crumbling at last. He sank onto a beam, his hands covering his face. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, in a voice thick with grief, he spoke. "Her name was Evelyn. We were engaged. She died in a car accident while I was away on business. I should have been there. I should have stopped her from driving that night. Instead, I buried her. And I buried myself with her." Selena's heart ached as tears stung her eyes. She stepped closer, kneeling before him. "Adrian, it wasn't your fault." His gaze lifted to hers, tortured. "Don't you see? Everyone I love gets hurt. I swore I'd never put anyone in that position again. Then you came, and I..." His voice cracked. "I can't lose you, Selena. I won't survive it." Her chest tightened, but she cupped his face in her hands, forcing him to see her. "You don't push people away to protect them. You love them, and you fight for them. I'm not Evelyn. I'm here. I'm alive, and I'm not leaving." For the first time, something shifted in his eyes. Hope, fragile but real. His hand closed over hers, holding on as if she were his only lifeline. The storm between them finally broke, not with fire this time, but with truth. And as Selena leaned into him, their foreheads touching, she realized the battle wasn't against each other anymore. It was against the ghosts that haunted them both. Chapter 9. Bound by midnight. The resort shimmered like a jewel against the moonlit sea. Glass walls reflected torchlight, music drifted across the waves, and the air was alive with celebration. The grand opening had arrived, a moment months in the making. Selena stood at the edge of the crowd, her black gown hugging her figure, her hair swept elegantly over one shoulder. She should have been proud. The designs she had labored over now stood tall and radiant before the world. But her heart beat restlessly, caught between fear and hope. Adrian hadn't spoken much since his confession. They worked side by side to finish the resort, but his silence lingered. Was he still hiding behind his ghosts? Or was tonight the night he finally chose something else? Someone else? As the speeches began, Adrian appeared on the stage, flawless in his tailored suit, his presence commanding the attention of every guest. But his eyes searched the crowd until they found hers. Selena's breath caught. The room, the people, the music, all of it faded until there was only him. He began his speech formally, thanking investors, staff, and partners. But then, unexpectedly, his voice shifted, warmer, rawer. "There's something else I need to say tonight," he said, his gaze never leaving Selena. For years, I've built walls of glass and steel, hiding behind them, convincing myself I was unbreakable. But walls don't protect, they isolate. And I've lived in isolation long enough. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Selena's hands trembled. Tonight, Adrian continued, his voice steady but charged with emotion, I don't just open this resort. I open myself to the woman who challenged me, who saw past my arrogance, who refused to let me stay buried in my past. Selena Hart gasps rose as every eye turned toward her. Heat rushed to her cheeks, but she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Adrian descended the stage, each step deliberate until he stood before her. The world seemed to hold its breath as he took her hand, lifting it to his lips. I love you, Selena, he said, his voice breaking, but clear enough for all to hear. You've bound me, not in chains, but in freedom. You've given me back my heart, and if it takes declaring it at midnight in front of the world to prove it, then so be it. The crowd erupted in whispers and applause, but Selena only saw him, only felt the trembling truth of his words. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered back, Adrian, I love you too. He pulled her close, their lips meeting in a kiss that silenced the crowd. A kiss that sealed the promise they had fought so hard to reach. The clock struck midnight, bells ringing faintly from the coastal town beyond, as though the universe itself marked the moment. Wrapped in Adrian's arms, Selena knew this wasn't just the end of a project, or the end of a painful chapter in their lives. It was the beginning, bound not by fear, not by scars, but by love, forever and always, bound by midnight, the end.